we've been covering World Cup back-to-back since 1990. Good morning, Mr. Kunle Sholaja. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. It's a pleasure being with you.
Professor, we have Mr. Sholaja online, and of course, together we'll go to do justice to the topic this morning. You know, World Cup is just around the corner tomorrow.
And if you look at it, you know, since 1930, when you take back the history, yes, Mr. Sholaja, I want to say good morning to you, and nice having a veteran like you joining us on the conversation today and to look at this, critical discussion. Thank you so much for being part of the program. Yes,
thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Yes, Binga, when you look at the history of, World Cup in 1930 when it started in Uruguay, this tournament has remarkably evolved. Talking about expansion, from where 13 teams participated. Participated to, going forward 1998, 1998. Then we begin to have from 24 to 32, and since then we've been adding, 32. And this expansion again, it's a big one, talking about Mexico, US, and this other Canada co-hosting, and then with 48 teams. That's a big one.
This is the first time we have 3 countries.
And then this will be the first time we are having 48 teams, participating. Yes. So I go straight to ask our veteran in the house who has been covering this event since 1990. So looking back now, which World Cup do you consider the most, transformative in football, and why? When we go back to history, you've been there, you've seen things for yourself, you've been part of the church, since 1990, you've been going in and coming out of the tournament. So, which of the World Cup do you consider most transformative in football history, and why do you consider?
Well, thank you very much, and good morning. Personally, I think it was my first World Cup. That's Italia, 90, and that edition actually reshaped the geography of the World Cup, because you remember that Italia 90, I just had 2 slots, and it was the performance of Cameroon in that World Cup. Especially beating the defending champion 1-0 in the opening match, and when you just say the defending champion, it will just be an understatement. Having the best athlete, the best footballer of that era, Diego Maradona, on the field, and they were able to defeat that team. Move all the way into the quarterfinals, and were set the calculation in the 9 minutes of that match. I caught them that ticket. That's the match against England in Italy. So with that, Africa has been advocating for more slots at the World Cup. But with that performance, the then FIFA president, Yahya Balad, without any recourse to Congress or to the ESCO, World Cup the day after Cameroon now lost to England, just to play. Africa will have it all seat at the World Cup. And that's why from Italia 90, Africa had 3 teams at the World Cup. So I could say that Italia 90 actually reshaped the geography of World Cup teams distribution.
So much for that. When you look at Africa historical, so you also want to remember that Cameroon was able to in 2022 also. We had Senegal in 2010, and now we're talking about we are going to have 9 African teams. We are going to have 9 African countries participating. Yes, how does it sound? How do you feel, talking about the fact that we have been having this kind of expansion and participation of Africa is increasing. And being in Nigeria, you want to look at the fact that has not been able, to an extent meet up with the expectation of people. But considering the fact that we are adding 9 African teams in this 2026 USA, Mexico, Canada. How do you feel? How does this sound to you?
The good news, the good aspect of it, Nigeria, Africa having an unprecedented 10th World Cup. That's the good news. But the sad part of it is that Nigeria will not be party in the USA. Especially it was in USA that Nigeria had the debut at the World Cup, and incidentally, after that time, we really have to struggle to be able to make the cut at least 3 teams in Africa. But when it was expanded to 10, when we looked at okay, it was not just going to be a stone in the park. You can't pick 10 football nations in Africa without mentioning Nigeria. And Nigeria is the highest ranked FIFA team to be absent. Apart from Italy, Nigeria is the next highest ranked FIFA team to be out of the World Cup. Because when we stay 48 teams in the World Cup, you expect that at least the top 50 should be there. Nigeria has 26. We are missing out. It's very, very sad. But good enough for the other African teams. But I also hope that the performance will also leave good memory for the continent, so that the discussion after this World Cup will not be whether to reduce the number of African teams and then really are not those slots for other continents, especially Europe. I hope that will not be the situation. But I know we have some African teams that will ruffle some feathers at the World Cup.
Okay, Mr. Ashola, FIFA ranks Nigeria as the best in Africa today. But now Nigeria will not be in that competition this year. How would you feel as a Nigeria hoping the event without Nigeria being there this year?
Well, certainly that's a scenario I'm already used to. As my debut at the World Cup, Nigeria was not there. At my 5th outing, at the 6th outing, 2006, Nigeria was not there. And at the last event in Qatar 2022, Nigeria was not there. So I'm already used to it. But it's sad enough for you to put on your body, covering other teams, know fully well that your team will not be there. And sometimes, as a reporter, it makes you lose focus. Because if your national team is there, naturally, that's the team will be following. But now, we are now forced to especially from Africa, to follow.
But we say that when we say, you react and I can feel you about the fact that your own country, our own beautiful Nigeria, the giant of Africa, isn't going to be part of this 2026 World Cup. It's saddening so many people's heart. But what would you say is kind of responsible for this failure? When you talk about footballers in the past, Nigerian team, you talk about the JJ coach of this world. When you yes, I'm talking about the that I know, talking about my own experience when Nigeria football. Now the of young Nigerians, the team. Is it that the passion is missing? Is it that Nigeria is suffering from maybe talent in football, because this is a talent industry, so to say? We did say that there is no passion like we have in the olden days, in the days of Rashidi Yekini and the likes, or maybe talk about Peter Rufai, Stephen Keshi, and all of them. We did say the passion is missing, that Nigeria has failed, to qualify for World Cup.
Well, it is not a matter of passion, it's just a matter of the input. What we put into the World Cup qualification is what we get. We started badly, and we started like a locomotive, and then now trying to put some more effort to it in at the final phase. Unfortunately, we were just a minute too late. Otherwise, we have even qualified the top team in our group, in the group in which we played. Because when that draw was made, people felt that, the World Cup ticket was there for Nigeria to pick because we have some of the low-ranking teams in our group, and thinking that South Africa will only be the challenge that we will take. But a lot of it also has to do with administration and all the old scenario, because we didn't really plan. For instance, now, if you look at South Africa, that top of our group, as of 10 minutes, they played 7 at home, which was very, very advantageous. So when you play 7 matches on your home soil, you are already on the driver's seat. And Nigeria did not really realize that on time, and that's why I blame the administrators. Because teams like Zimbabwe, Lesotho, they didn't have home ground that were needed to play at home. So they all adopted South Africa. So South Africa played those teams on their own soil, and that made it very, very easy. That is not to say that the South African team was not good, but it made it very easy for them. While Nigeria was busy struggling to get points here and there, the South Africans were just amassing the points. So even with 3 points deducted from them for fielding an ineligible player in a particular match, they still managed to top that group, and that speaks volume. Next time, when we have such a scenario, Nigeria should have offered to either play first to some of those countries that don't have good home ground, or be able to support their logistics to play in neutral grounds like Morocco, or going to even Zambia, very close to them, to have their matches. But we didn't look at that direction. If you remember, there was this statement by Honorable Kule Shoname when his team faced Mamelodi's Sundown. He said Mamelodi's Sundown offered to host both matches, and with some concession that the gate taking be yours and all these things. That's to tell you that those South Africans, they know the politics of matches, what it takes to win matches, and those are the things that we lack, and that's why we find ourselves struggling at the end of the World Cup qualifier. And thus we narrowly made the cut for the playoff, and unfortunately we messed it up, and now is DR Congo returning to the World Cup after 52 years.
It's a beautiful one anyway, but we pray Nigeria is able to get it rightly. And
I still want to ask Mr. Asholaja, now we performed poorly, woefully. In your own case, who do we hold responsible for this poor performance? The team, the manager, or the management of Nigerian Football Federation?
Yes, sir, they lost about that.
Without mentioning what, it is not the manager. As a matter of fact, you also raised it. We were probably the only team that played the qualifier matches with 3 or 4, even 5 coaches. We started with Jose Pesero, we went to Iguaboy, we went to Pinidi George, before we now settled for Eric Chair. So that in itself paints a picture of a disorganized, organized football organization in Nigeria. That is the first instance. The second instance, you also look at even when, after the playoff, we said this, the DR Congo fielded ineligible players for that playoff. Did we follow the rule? And we kept shouting, or the NFL kept shouting every day that they have protested and they have good case. They employ the best international sports lawyers. And at the end, the case was not even hard. Because they didn't tell the Nigerians the truth, FIFA just responded to them that it was like, you send us a memo, we are replying you. This is the answer to you. But to start with, they said we didn't follow the rule, which means those administering football in Nigeria, they don't follow the rules of the game. Set by Article 6 or 7, say if you are protesting on the eligibility of a player, first and foremost, you have 2 hours at the end of that match to notify the match commissioner that we are filing a protest. And the match commissioner will duly note that in his match report. Then 48 hours, which means 2 days after that match, you now file your formal protest, stating the grounds as supported by the regulations of the competition to file your protest. According to FIFA information given to me personally, they said the match was played on November 16th. Nigeria filed protest on November 28th. November 16th to 28th, how many days? Many days have lapsed.
10 days.
More than the required 2 days. Then secondly, when you are filing your protest, you pay the protest fee of 1,000 Swiss francs Nigeria didn't pay. And for that, the disciplinary committee could not sit on our appeal. And to worsen the matter, you deceive the whole Nigerians, telling the Nigerians that you have filed an appeal with CAF. Up till now, CAF responded that they didn't get any appeal from Nigeria, and yet nobody has come out to tell us that, oh, we wanted to appeal, but on the second thought, we felt we didn't have a good case. Even when the who were playing the playoff, the intercontinental playoff, they were still telling us, don't worry, we have appealed to CAF, we have a good case, the World Cup is just some 24 hours away. We are waiting whether CAF will announce Nigeria as the substitute team to the Congo. So that is gross deceit. They should have told us it was bad that we lost, but it was worse that we even now try to deceive the whole Nigerians.
Well, you agree with me that, thank you so much, Mr. Asholaja. It's been an insightful one. But you agree with me that sometimes Nigeria, when you look at the situation of things, poor administration goes a long way stealing our football. And of course, when you now considering the fact that, yes, it says something about Nigeria not being able to make payments. We unnecessarily
management and all those things.
And we unnecessarily take time when
do we have good basis for that appeal?
Oh, it is well. This is what it is. That's Nigeria. Yes, Mr. Asholaja, thank you so much. Yes, away from Nigeria now, let's look at the expansion at the 2026 World Cup. It's kind of a soccer fiesta, like our producers had looked at it. Of course, when you check it very well, it's more of a soccer fiesta. But some critics actually say that they argue that the expansion of the World Cup is a way of maybe for the 18th is just a way of generating revenue. And some are of the opinion that it promotes inclusiveness, and of course it helps to grow the Nigerian football, the nations, the world football, and give smaller nations the opportunity, sense of inclusivity in all of these things. So, to you, where do you stand? Is it the means of generating the soccer fiesta, like I would call it, for participation, the largest, in the history of football in the world? So do you see this as a means of generating revenue for Mexico, who has always been there, and USA co-hosting? Let's look at it. Where do you stand? Is it in a way of, allowing more participation, or maybe generating revenue, like critics have looked at it?
Yeah, to me, it enables inclusiveness. Things that Liverpool will never have dreamt of qualifying for the World Cup are now there. We have teams that are debuting. We have Corruption, from Africa, we have Pittsburgh, and all sorts of things. And what that means is that when you qualify for the World Cup, money is also involved. The money goes to the team, to the country that qualified. If we had qualified for the World Cup now, at least the Nigerian Football Federation would have had nothing less than $12 to $15 million even if you pass out at the group stage. So, but such money now will now go to the lesser countries, and it is also a way of also improving the standard of play in such countries. Expansion is good, and that's even why some people are also even advocating that CAF should also think of further expanding the scope, the number of teams that will take part in the African Cup of Nations, because it allows more countries to participate, and the more you participate, the more you qualify. You also know that you have some qualification fees that you get, and that will also help in aiding the development of football across board.
Thank you so much, and you know, our time is fast spent on the program, and we're running to the end of this segment. Yes, you know, when you look at this tournament now, Morocco was the last African nation that was able to at least put their strength to, you know, in the World Cup to semi-finals. So how does it feel to you when you know, looking forward? We have 9 to 10 teams from Africa participating in this World Cup. So how do you see, you know, how do you feel when you see, do you see any African nation, you know, getting to the final like we have had the history, Morocco getting, the only African country getting to the semi-finals of World Cup? Do you think of any African country qualifying to that level, possibly yes, to the final, maybe?
Yeah, thank you very much. Because of what has happened to with Morocco, it will be a bit difficult, because other teams are now more conscious of upset. They know that anything can happen when you play teams from Africa. And besides that, what Morocco achieved in 2022 was not a flaw. You need to be to Morocco and see the foundation for the achievement of 2022 was laid as far back as 2008, when the King Mohammed VI organized a football symposium. It took for 2 days to lay foundation for what will make football to thrive in Morocco and make Morocco one of the superpowers of football. You need to see their facilities, their stadiums. You need to see the academies, especially the Mohammed VI Football Academy in Rabat, at the aspect of Rabat. So it was not a fluke, it was purposely driven. They planned for it. And I watched one of their last qualifying, in fact, the match that actually qualified them for USA for this World Cup, when they made Nigeria, they unfolded a big banner saying before, we are tempted to just ruffle some feathers. This time, they said they will be going for the trophy. And it is not just an empty promise or empty dream. You know that they have planned for this thing. And they have their own local coach. The coach that took them to Qatar 2024 was hired just weeks to Qatar 2022. Now, the same thing they have done. They have a new coach, a Moroccan coach, so they believe in this homegrown program. And even in women's football, where they were nobody before, just from 6 years ago, they decided that they were going to be football power in women's football. I mean, you already know what happened in the last 2 editions of the World Cup. They got to the final on the 2 instances. And this was a team that before Nigeria would beat 8-0, Nigeria also beat them 5-0 at the time. But now they have now reached that, and it was because they had purpose, they planned for it, they knew what they wanted to do, and they went for it. So with that, African teams, maybe Morocco, Senegal, and possibly Egypt, may just ruffle feathers and be one of those that will qualify beyond the group stage into the group of 32, then getting into the quarterfinals.
Okay, Mr. Sholaja, on a final note, soccer generally has been seen to be a unifying force. Do you see this World Cup bringing peace between U.S. and Iran?
That's a big one.
Well, when two countries are naturally at war, I don't see them having peace. And you know what the Iranians have said? Their 3 group matches will be played in the USA. They are staying at the border of Mexico. That they have promised that they will not spend one night in USA. That at the end of every match day, they will fly from their base in Mexico to USA for the match and leave instantly. So, and you know that matches involving the two teams have always have political undertone. I remember that of France 98 when the two teams met, and it literally it was on peace day that feature failed. I think they've also met again in one other World Cup. So it's a natural battle between the two, on and off the field. So I don't see this World Cup making the two of them to
bringing them together in any way. Well, it's good anyway. Well, we pray that the peace will return to both countries. But yes, Mr. Sholaja, from your room there, we can see assemblage of awards that shows, you know, a veteran sport journalist. You eat sports, you drink sports, and I even see football where you park there. You sleep sports. You can even see them parked behind you there. That tells a lot of story. We want to appreciate you for being part of the conversation, and we like your insights. You know, we appreciate the fact that you've been, you know, when you are doing something, consistency matters. We have seen the result in what you've been able to share with us on the program this morning. We want to also appreciate you, and we look forward to, you know, what promises to be the best World Cup ever, in a historic World Cup 2026. So thank you so much for being part of the conversation, Mr. Sholaja.
It's a pleasure being with you and being on the television of my home state. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, that will be the segment where we go for this short break to bring to you, you know, the popular segment of the program that's Finding. We'll be back.